Good afternoon and welcome to Vendée Live. It is Monday, the 6th of January 2025, the start of the new working week of the year. And here in Les Sables d'Olonne, it has been super windy. But the talk of the town is about the imminent arrival. The window of opportunity for our leaders who crossed into the Northern Hemisphere is the 14th, 15th of January, and activity has already started to welcome them home. In the news today, we are at the back of the fleet with Denny van Wijnberg crossing the date line. And then we have two more sailors out of the Southern Ocean. Isabel Josch and Giancarlo Pedotti crossed Cape Horn, putting their arrival into the Atlantic Ocean. We also have Yannick Ebestevan, who retired into Ushuaia and thanks to his team is able to repair his boat, and he left today to continue his route out of the race back to Les Sables d'Olonne. And closer to home, Louis Burton, who retired from the race at the beginning of December, arrived back in his home port of St. Malo. Now, it's a Monday, so we are being joined by the co-skipper of Militia Sea Explorer, Will Harris, who has enjoyed a Christmas and New Year in the UK. Hi, Will, how are you?
Yeah, Happy New Year, Dee. Good to be back and looking forward to seeing what 2025 has to hold.
Well, that's right. Now, somebody who is battling her way through the South Atlantic that's been super complex is Samantha Davis on board Initiative Kerr. And if we look at her position, we can see she's in 13th position on the chart. She's closing the gap and has made huge gains on Clarice Kramer and Benjamin Dutroux ahead of her. And I'm delighted to say that Sam's with us now. Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
Hello, Dee. Happy New Year. I'm very well. It's a little bit bumpy here today.
That's right. You got rid of that high pressure, you got rid of that exclusion zone, and now you're freeing yourself up in some decent breeze in that low pressure. Must feel good.
Yeah, it was really close to sneak through before the high pressure swallowed me up. So I was full on just doing everything I could, every single sail change maneuver. It was pretty intense to get through, and then I was really happy to catch this low because it's not really mega fun sailing, but it's fast away north, and that's what's really important. I sort of tried to take a route a little bit. Tried to take a route that was a bit better with the sea state to be able to keep the big sails up a little bit longer to start with, and so I was quite happy that I managed to keep the speed up and catch up the others ahead of me a little bit. And the same, I had some pretty heinous nosedives just a few hours ago at the end of the night, and as soon as that stopped, I've just been changing up sails bigger and bigger to try and keep the speed on and optimize the trajectory to really make the most of this low, because it's kind of the last lot of wind that we're going to have for a while, and it's really helping me to catch up the groups ahead, so that's pretty good. I was just looking there because I just destroyed my Jenica and I was looking out the window. There's another squall coming, but I think it's okay. They're not too they're not really packing a punch, as you'd say, Dee. It's more the sea state that's difficult.
Fingers crossed we don't lose you mid-squall. Just bear away and go faster, Sam, and enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
Well, I'm delighted to say we've got Will Harris with us on the show today, and he'd like to say hi.
Hey Sam, how you doing? It's good to see you in pretty high spirits, and glad to see you've been catching up some miles. How does this race compare to the last editions of the Vendée Globe you've done? I mean, I've followed you in your racing for a long time, and I'm just wondering how, with the new boats, the way it's changing is how does it compare to the last editions you've done?
For me, it's every edition's been faster and faster. For me, I'm kind of living this edition a bit like I lived 2008 in terms of enjoying the race and trying to push my boat and doing good stuff, doing bad stuff, making mistakes, and just absolutely loving it. And I'm really happy to have found that kind of enjoyment again, because 2020 was really hard for me, and when I had to abandon really early on in the race, and then I just sailed the whole course outside of of the rankings. So it's difficult to compare the two races, 2020 and this one, because they were so different. But for sure, I'm really enjoying it. With obviously the frustration of not being where I hoped to have been in terms of the rankings. But I made mistakes. I got unlucky a couple of times, and you have to accept that as well. And it's not every day you get to do a Vendée Globe in a foiling in Mocha, and I'm definitely making the most of it. And for sure, life is pretty hard. I wouldn't invite anyone inside my boat right now because I had a pasta explosion last night. Because the sea set is so heinous, you can't do anything, but you have to keep eating. And so it's at your risk of peril. And somewhere around here, I've got I managed to get half of my muesli down, and the other half is for after. So the comparison between, especially 2008 and now, there's no comparison between life on board. On a foiler, you're literally just hanging in there the whole time, and so 70, 80 days like that where we're just living, you know what it's like, in real basic survival mode, is something that you probably wouldn't ever imagine doing, but when you're doing it and racing a foiler, you kind of accept the way of life for the enjoyment of spending it and the race and the feelings you get on these amazing boats. But for sure, it's pretty primitive right now. It's been primitive ever since the start, and it's life on board. Even though we've done everything we can to have a good seat and a good bunk and everything, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Sam. I saw that you've resorted to eating your food with your fingers off the floor, so, needs must. I was just impressed you were still eating.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the important thing is to keep eating, and it's something that, I'm not that huge. These boats are physically really demanding, and it's really hard to eat enough calories for what my body needs every day. So yeah, I have to eat it off the floor. But no, for sure, I've worked really hard with my team, with Carol and my team, Caroline and Virginia, and nutritionists as well, to try and work out how to stay strong for the whole race in terms of nutrition. And actually in my muesli there's protein supplements, and I've been kind of pushing really hard in every aspect, including the eating, to try and stay strong and be able to push my boat as hard as I can the whole length of the race. Woo! That was a big wave. I was still on it.
But you've definitely been doing that, because the last couple of days we've seen you really close the gap with Clarice and Benjamin. Is your boat at 100%? Are you able to go on the attack now when you've got the opportunity?
Yes, me and my boat, we're both at 100%. So thanks to an amazing preparation by the team. And I think I worked really hard the whole trip to take care of the boat and, not leave anything to degrade, to get worse or any wear and tear. And so right now the sail I've got up, it's got a massive patch in the middle. So I did a huge sail repair in the Southern Ocean, and I'm really proud because it's hanging in there, and I'm not being kind to it. So we're full potential. I did have some energy problems, and they're under control. I never really totally understood exactly what it was, but luckily with my team we had a lot of redundancy in the energy sources between hydro, solar and diesel. So I'm running on a kind of a degraded version of charging, but I've got enough energy to get back to the Vendée. So all is good, and tried, despite the conditions, to keep eating and sleeping to be at 100% because, yeah, the next few days are pretty critical, and it's not going to be easy to sneak through the light wind zones in this in the front here and the convergence zone. So I'm going to give it my best.
Well, we want you to give it your best as well, Sam. We want you to keep doing the great job, because this isn't just about your sporting challenge that we love following, but also you're saving lives of a lot of children doing this. So it's a double whammy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a double whammy, and it's amazing because I think we're over 80 kids saved by the project since the start of the Vendée Globe, and that's just amazing. I'm really confident that we're going to get to that target of just over 100, so that we can say that in the whole duration of Initiative Care since Tanguy Lemot created the project, that by the time I cross the finish line, that we will have saved 500 kids' lives, and that's just incredible. It helps me get through every day, even through the hard days, thinking about the kids, and you know, I've met a lot of them, and all the other volunteers in this amazing charity. So yeah, I'm giving it everything I can for Initiative Care, for Missionnaires Chirurgie Cardiaque, to do the best I can, and thanks to everyone who's supporting me on the social media of the project. Obviously, if you come and click and comment and you're active on my social media, on the Initiative Care pages, then my sponsors will donate €1 to the charity. So thanks to my very generous sponsors, the Chocolat du Cœur, Caroline and Vendée Energy, who are just amazing. 500 kids saved by the project.
Well, Sam, it's all good stuff. You're doing a great race. We wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us today. Lots of love. Sail safe and sail fast.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everybody, and have a great week.
Well, Will, you've got to be impressed with Sam there. She seems to be so positive having this great race that she's having.
Yeah, no, really, really good to hear her speaking in such high spirits. I think she knows she's still got a lot to fight for up to the finish, and you know, it's a massive achievement for the sailors to be where they are already. They're, you know, nearly 80% of the way through the race now, and also just to hear her comparison of when she first did the Vendée Globe and to now, and how the life on board is just so much more challenging, but a kind of a totally different challenge as well in terms of being really rough and very bouncy. But no, really good to see a fellow Brit going well.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. Now, somebody on the other side of the coin is Benjamin Ferry, who's going to be the next sailor to round Cape Horn. And he is going to do this for the very first time. And he sent us a little video showing us how happy he was as he sails towards this mythical landmark.
On a retrouvé le soleil! Direction le Cap Horn! Et ça file! Woohoo!
In good spirits there, but let's hope the weather gives him a kind rounding. He should be there Tuesday, Wednesday, so in the next couple of days, but the weather's looking a little interesting. Now, the group just ahead of Sam Davis is this group that goes from 4th to 10th. And they are super compact, super close together. And in amongst that group is Boris Herrmann. And we can see on the map here, he's actually in 7th position. But there is very little between this group that's spread east to west. He's taking the western option. And he sent us a little video of how life was on board and the jobs he has to do.
And another secret I want to tell you is that this morning I went on deck naked. Why? Because we are here in the zone with the ideal temperature. It is neither too hot, neither too warm. The sea has just the temperature of actually waking me up when I came out of the bunk and needed to go forward to put the J0. Instead of putting these things on, which are a bit damp now, I was just going as I am. So once I finished this maneuver this morning, I looked up and I changed the backstay from the jib that I use to the code 0, which is at the top of the mast, and then the backstay has to also pull on the top of the mast. And this is adjusted with a rope that pulls sideways. And that rope I could then see when it was east that it's broken. I mean, the cover is broken. That means tomorrow or the day after, when the weather is the sea state will permit, I will go up and try to put this cover with tape and some stitching to secure it a bit.
So tough time for Boris. He's got to go up the mast. Will, we know Boris isn't in favour really of going up the mast. It's not his favourite job to do. And I'm trying really not to think of him going up the mast naked after his sail change naked. So when he goes up, is it just he'll go up, do that job, or will he take advantage of being up there and actually do a full rig check?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, that one, D. I think firstly, hopefully he had his life jacket on when he went up in his birthday suit on deck, but that's a whole different topic. But going up the mast, Boris really isn't. He's not a fan of heights. It's always been a tougher part of the racing for him. And before the start, we'd sort of been through the procedure again. We always do it like 4 years ago when he did the last Vendée Globe, and that involves sort of putting all the gear on and just checking how it all works out. So he did it 5 days before the start, so he knows how it all works, and I think he's just got to really trust himself that he can go and do it, even though he's alone this time. And he's got the whole team sort of behind him, and we're hopefully going to talk him through how to deal with the technical issue up there. We've kind of got a plan, and now it's just about executing it and making sure it all goes well. But obviously, climbing 27 meters up the mast by yourself, it's not something you want to do every day. So he'll hopefully do a nice, good check over the whole mast, make sure there's nothing else that he can't quite see from deck, because that's the really challenging thing with problems up the mast, is you actually have to go up there to see the problem, and often down on deck you can't really see it. So it's actually really helpful that he'll go up there and be able to check everything else and just make sure the boat's still in good working order, ready to go to the finish.
Well, let's hope he doesn't find any surprises up there, because we've seen a couple of other skippers have to go up their rig. We've seen Seb Simon change his VHF unit, luckily, because that's his AIS, and he had a very close encounter with a cargo ship that he saw and heard on his AIS alarm. And also we've seen Nico and Justine both have lost their masthead units, so are using rear-mounted units that are less accurate, which may have some impact on their performance. So fingers crossed for Boris and his rig climb, and your coaching, or your encouragement for him to go and do the job that he would normally pass to you, Will.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's like you say, Dee, it's really important that all this, like the wind units and the AIS and the VHF, these are some of the most important things. It's how the foiling IMOCAs can really exploit the autopilots. It's how we can make sure there's no objects in front of us. We also have the CAI unit at the top, the sort of automatic object detection system looking out in front, and to check that these are all in good working order, and it can really have an effect on your race. And as we've heard, a couple of the other boats are having struggles with this, and really using the wind gear, which is only mounted on the hull. It gives a much less accurate picture of what's going on at the top of the mast, which is where your sails are. Yeah, hopefully everything's all working up there, and there's no surprises, like you say.
No dramas, we hope. Now, the group that's chasing Sam Davis, Clarice and Benjamin's trio is another trio of Romain Antanasio, Damien Sagan and Jean Le Cam. The King has come back being the leading daggerboard boat and is closed on this group to be within reach. They're now, as you can see in this position, all approaching this high pressure and light wind zone. They're tailing upwind, in which Jean Le Cam has better conditions. But we heard from Romain Antanasio today by telephone.
I'm in the Atlantic Ocean now. You can't imagine how I'm happy to be here after this so hard South Ocean. It was terrible during 1 month, and now after crazy Cape Horn, my third Cape Horn, I'm so happy. And I saw the Cape Horn, not like the two last time. Now it's a bit harder. We are upwind for 1,000 miles upwind to the north. to go to the north, and it's not really comfortable. The boat stuff the waves every 30 seconds. We have to live in 25 degrees of hill, but I'm really happy. It's really warm now. The temperature is crazy. It's really warm outside, warm on board, completely different than 2 days ago. The bad news is just I have Jean Le Cam behind. He come back really fast because he have a crazy great angle. That's crazy. He have a great angle since 1 month now. I can make nothing. It's like that. It's because it's the King Jean. The King Jean is a good man, and the good man have a good weather.
So let's take a look at that weather that they're all talking about. Here we have the front of the fleet, and we can see that this animation, the 2 boats across the equator. Seb Simon will be the next boat to cross the equator, and lying ahead is this ridge of high pressure. That's going to slow them down, so there's still game on between that front 2 boats of who will arrive in Les Sables d'Olonne first. Further back, we've got this huge group of 4th place to 10th place. Nico Lundven out to the east, Boris Herman there taking the more westerly option. They're still trying to get into these established trade winds to get more of a consistent breeze and conditions. Then if we go to the rest of the fleet, we've got our trio here with this low pressure system that Sam Davis was talking about, Clarice Kramer and Benjamin Detraux. And then Jean Le Cam probably made up the most miles to close in on Romain Antolasio and Damien Sagan there, battling this light wind area. Alan Rora on Hublot has got a clear away at Cape Horn in this light transition here. Our 2 boats that pass Cape Horn today, Giancarlo Pedotti and Isabel Josch. And then this group of daggerboard boats, they're coming in with this front of a northwesterly breeze. That's going to take them all the way to Cape Horn, but the sting is not over once they round the corner. Benjamin Ferry will get clear ahead, but this low pressure will develop a very nasty system, probably Wednesday, Thursday this week, that these guys are going to see on the other side. So they're not safe once they get back into the Atlantic. Now, we talked about our front 2 boats crossing the equator, and Charlie Dallin had a rather sceptical bottle of champagne to celebrate.
Attention, et hop, ça y est, franchissement de l'équateur, à l'instant. Ça met un terme à 44 jours de périple dans l'hémisphère sud. Qui plus est, passage en tête. Neptune, mon cher Neptune. Cette bouteille de champagne, elle était prévue. Regardez, c'est marqué. Pour le Horn, mais pas le Horn de cette année, non. Le Horn d'il y a 4 ans. Et donc, cette bouteille, elle a passé 4 ans dans mon frigo. Et de nouveau, je ne l'ai pas ouvert au Horn à la peau. Donc, Neptune, cette bouteille, elle en est à son 2e tour du monde.
Well, let's hope Neptune is happy with a bottle of champagne that went round the world twice with a 4-year interval in between. So the front 2 boats, really not that much between them. There's a little gap there with Jon Richon because he's actually been in the doldrums, that busy area that slowed him down a little bit, while Charlie is through that now, so starting to accelerate. This next group, Seb Simon, next across the equator, clear gap behind him for the following boats. And then this 4th place to 10th place, really nothing in it and all to play for. And that's probably going to be the group that's going to invade Les Sables d'Olonne en masse. And it's amazing that we're actually talking about the finish line already. The next group of 3 is Benjamin, Clarice and Samantha. They're in that little group. And then they've got the next group of 3 battling round. Then we get our new people round the Cape of Good Hope. And then we've got the whole daggerboard fleet, along with Koji Shiriashi, and also Arnaud Boissier as the foiling boats in that fleet. And then we've got Oliver here, along with Jackie, our Chinese competitor. They're travelling along the ice exclusion zone, and they're just approaching Point Nemo. And then at the back of the fleet, we've got Denny van Weinberg, who celebrated crossing the date line. Now, this morning I had a chance to speak to our leader and asked him if he was happy to be back in the Northern Hemisphere.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back in the Northern Hemisphere too. It seems like that's the symbol of the beginning of the last stretch home.
And now you're in the doldrums. Are they very active? Has it been hard work, or is it all good?
Yes and no. I thought that was going to be like a real piece of cake, But as you know, dolphins are a bit more active at night. And as yesterday was coming to an end, I was starting to see on the infrared imaging, satellite imaging, that like this big like a cluster of clouds and thunderstorms right in front of me. That was not so easy last night. I didn't sleep much. Like I maybe managed like 40 minutes sleep. Crossing that finger. I think I'm almost out of the effect of the dolphin.
Now your weather files must be focusing on the North Atlantic to the finish line. Does that feel crazy to be looking at the finish line now?
Yeah. I started routing to the finish 2 or 3 days ago, and that felt really weird. Putting Les Sables d'Olonne into the destination of the routing, making the most of the hot weather before being back in cold Europe.
So now with your strategy, are you thinking of your own race, or are you now match racing Johan Richomme?
I have to take him in the equation, I think. So when I make a decision, I will really check if it's compatible with the tactical perspective regarding my positioning against him. So yeah, for sure.
And with your boat and yourself, Charlie, are you at 100% and able to push hard, or have you got any limitations?
No, I'm 100%. I did some work on the boat, but I managed to fix all the problems I had. So yeah, the boat is at 100% of its potential, and yeah, it's a pleasure to race up the Atlantic with a boat in such a good state.
Now, I know, Will, that Charlie's there talking about 4 years ago when he raced back up the Atlantic and he only had one foil, a little bit like Seb Simon. So when he says his boat's at 100%, I still question whether they're actually being open with us now, the skippers, when we ask them if everything's okay or if they've got any issues that they're worried about. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting because last time, like you say, Charlie crossed the finish line with straps holding the foil in place. I think he mentioned he had to climb over 40 times to the end of the foil to retie the straps as they kept breaking. And to have done the Vendée Globe and finish, well, he crossed the finish line first, finishing second overall, but, to have had to go up the Atlantic like that would have just been absolutely brutal. So I think now he's sailing along, and you can kind of see it in his face. He's really happy with how his boat's in 100%, and he's learned his lesson, I suppose, from last time in terms of really working on the boat and making sure it's working well. But I think he's being fairly honest. We'll always find out things at the finish, but certainly in the Southern Ocean, he had that problem with one of his sails, and he had to repair it, and it took him 36 hours, and he told us as soon as he'd managed to successfully repair it. So I guess if he goes a bit quiet at some point, we know that there might be some sort of issue there. But no, really cool to see Charlie and how he's kind of really in total control of this race. It's going to be a close fight with Johan still to the finish, I think.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. We've got less than 3,000 miles. The two of them are only 76 miles apart, and even that small distance would mean very different routing. Is it more of a psychological game now, and who do you think's got the edge?
Oh yeah, it's 77 miles is absolutely nothing. It's it's a solitaire de figure leg now to the finish, and it could come right down to the line where they have a sudden shutdown in the breeze, and that boat comes behind you. And when these boats are doing 25, 30 knots, sometimes that's only 2 or 3 hours difference at the moment. So I think definitely Charlie's got to play his strategy with Johan. He's got to really think about what Johan's doing and what he might be thinking about. But also he's got to sail his own race. He's managed to get himself at the front to the front of the race at this point, and he's obviously done that by sailing his own race and doing his own thing. And he made that big move in the Indian Ocean, sailing ahead of the big storm with Seb Simon. So I think he's really got to keep an eye on Johan, but just keep doing his thing in his race and not get overly stressed about it. So fingers crossed for him.
Well, time will tell, and not a lot of time for us to tell. Will, thank you as always for your insight and your time today. I appreciate that, and so does everybody else. Enjoy safe travels back to France.
Thanks, Dee. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. And I will be back. I'm in all this week, so I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. And joining me tomorrow will be Olympian, world champion and ocean race sailor Mariana Lobato from Portugal, who was the co-skipper for Beatherm as well. So she will have a great insight into sailing these boats and how these skippers are feeling. But until then, I'm going to leave you with the most beautiful sunset photos from Thomas Ruon on board Vulnerables and Justine Metro on board Teamwork Team Snef.